All right, happy Friday. I'm very pleased to say that Cynthia is here. Hello, Cynthia. Welcome to the Investor Circle podcast. Nice to see you. Silly waves as we have. How are you today, my friend? And where are you today?
Hello, Stu. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. I'm right now in Carcavelos, close to Lisbon in Portugal. And, not very sunny weather, but okay, we can handle it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Now, you are CEO of Core Angels, and for those people that don't know Core Angels, what's it all about?
Okay, Core Angels, we are a community of angel investors, but we are organized in a very particular way because our angels, they invest in a common group of startups. So we call it angel funds. So we are a community of 14 angel funds. These angel funds are a group of investors. They pull up their capital together and they decide on the startups they are going to invest together, all as a collective decision. And we are right now 14 in several countries, and each group has its own investment thesis, operations. So they are very independent from each other, but they are all united in the same purpose of funding the early stage and following some methodologies and framework of Courageous model.
Okay, fantastic. Now, last time we were talking, you told me you'd recently published a book,
Yeah.
and you flummoxed me a little bit because you said the book was in English, which I was really surprised about because I thought you would have published it in Portuguese first. But tell me about the book.
Yeah,
And
about the book, what happened was I was talking to a friend of mine. She's an angel investor also with Core Angels, and we were discussing a few things on how we could bring more people to do angel investing because it was very frequent that we identify some friends or some colleagues that worked with us in the past, and that we thought, well, this person would be great in angel investing, not only from the contribution they would provide to startups, but also they could have angel investing as an alternative investment in their portfolios. But why don't they do that? And we realized that in many cases, people, they don't know this activity exists, or they know it exists, but they think it's not for them. So they think like, well, this is just for multimillionaire people or just for people who have worked in the financial market. So they have all those kinds of concepts that put them away from this sort of activity. And we started thinking, yes, but why they don't know or why they have all these myths in their minds, because there are so many information around, so much information around. So it's easy. And then we realized that it's not exactly that easy for the aspiring angels because you have many things spread, but you have feel like, so we wanted to write a handbook, like a practical guide. So
okay,
collecting some things on angel investing, what you should know before you start, or also providing some resources where you should look for information so that we could bring more people, especially women, because it's something that for us is very important to bring more women to the table of investing. And we realized that women, they usually, of course, not always, but usually they like to study and to have information before taking some action. So that was the main motivation.
they like to have some information before taking action. That's interesting.
Yes.
And maybe men not so much, or
What we see is that men usually, of course, they don't feel so they like to jump into something that they don't know at all, and they kind of, okay, I'll get this by doing. Okay,
I
it's
just
it's
work it
okay.
out, right?
I'll just work it out. I'll say I'm investing and it's fine. And women, they tend to, like, when we see in the investment committees, it's very frequent to see angel investors, female angels, taking notes or getting the material they just printed to read while they're watching the page. So they need to feel more informed before taking some actions or taking some risks. I don't think they are more I don't think they are less risk tolerant, but I think they want to make more informed decisions because they want to know what are the consequences if something bad happens. So we realize that and this is one of the motivations for writing the book.
And you wrote it in English first.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
we
it
wrote it in
translated now,
English
or
first.
is it just
Yeah, we wrote it in English. Then we decided to translate it to Portuguese. which for us was easy because we could review the Portuguese version easily because I'm a Portuguese speaker, and the co-author is also a Portuguese speaker. Then we hired a person also to translate to Spanish, because we thought that, well, many people in the Portuguese and Spanish countries, they know English and they can read in English, but it's not like a comfort language. So let's try to build this both versions, to attend also this audience.
Okay, so I guess if you do it in French as well, you've got like 90% of the planet at this
Yeah,
point.
almost, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, fantastic. So, obviously, I'm in Exeter today, and this is what like the epicenter of equity crowdfunding in the UK. So, this is where Crowdcube began, and some of the lobbying for the legislation in the UK that made it happen. And CEDAS has done some stuff in Portugal as well. But angel investing in the UK and equity crowdfunding, they've really been married together for a long time. So, what it meant was you could put £10 into a startup and get a little bit of equity and then track it. And when I was first doing this, I had friends and stuff. They'd put like 20 investments of £10 into something, and they'd watch that portfolio and they'd study it and they'd be learning a lot. Why is there not more of this? Why is there not like this micro investment stuff? What do you think's
I
going on?
I think we're starting to have this. In fact, in our case in Core Angels, we have some funds where angels, they can put little money, like they can invest like 25K, and they are investing in 20 startups. Okay, so it's a portfolio of 20 startups that will be built, and they're investing 25K. Just for the funds who are investing very pre-seed, so it's a special, depending on the investment thesis, this is possible. And we are seeing some groups in Portugal also betting on this more democratized access to angels, where angels can invest 1K, 5K, something like this. I think in Core Angels, what we try to do is to make it more professional, the angel investing activity. So to make it more, to present some methods, to have some frameworks and tools to reduce the risk, so that you can give more confidence to people to start investing. Because I think it happened to me and it happened to many angels. When you start willing to take this activity, to start investing as an angel, you have some questions of, you're not so confident that what will be the implications for me if something happens to the startup, or do I need to understand every single clause of all the investment contracts, or am I able to make a judgment on a market that I'm not so familiar with? Should I invest in something that I'm not so familiar with, or is it just gambling? So there are many questions, so I
Are you
think,
worried about liability at that stage? Is that what they're?
yeah, I hear this a lot from many people, like the liability issues, and in each country it's different. But in general, there's no implications. But some people, they are kind of concerned about liabilities. Other people, they are more concerned about, okay, I can be invested in the beginning, but depending on the investment contract, I won't have liquidation preferences. So I could be one of the last ones to receive when we have an exit opportunity. So these are some of the concerns, and we try to explain this in the book also, to try to bring some more clarity for people on the risks and the what are the practices in the market. So this is it. But answering to your question, I think that we need more of that. That's why we have in Corinthians, also, we just built a syndicate layer on top of our portfolio to
Okay.
provide access to people that can invest only 5K in a deal. And so they start to test the waters. They participate in the deal, they see how it goes, they start learning, they see that, well, that startup that was so promising, now it's not growing exactly like they were planning, or sometimes they are going very badly, and then all of a sudden there is a turnaround because something happened and they could get an opportunity. So they start to feel how the nature of the investment, which is pretty different from many other types of investments that we have around. So it's also a learning curve for the angels.
Okay. Super interesting. What's your top two criteria if you're picking an investment?
Ah, well, I think that there are two top criteria that for me are very clear. There is market they are serving, and the team. The team for me is, you know, I already got some evaluating some startups with the huge potential market and interesting solution, but with a team that I thought they didn't have the right mindset for such an early stage. They were kind of thinking that, well, you know it all, just give me the money, I'll do that. This will be a huge
And it'll
success.
just work like this, right? So like little sequences can be fine.
and and we know that in the early stage there are lots of backs and forths, and you need to listen to the market, you need to get the feedback, change your solution, make some adjustments, go again. It's natural, and sales is something that I think the majority of founders, they don't realize how hard it is until they really get to do that. So when you're planning your startup, it looks like much simpler than it is in reality. Like I'm building something so amazing that it's just presenting that people will come. It's not like that at all. It's super hard, and I've been a founder, and I know, and working with sales, and I know exactly how it is. It's super hard selling innovation. So for me, when I see a team, and when I talk about team, it's not only if they have a good vibe, or if they are passionate about the problem, etc. But it's also if they are complementary, and if they understand the most important roles in the beginning of the startup. It doesn't make sense for you to have a CFO in a startup that's not selling, but you need someone to take care of sales, because otherwise this is not going to happen. And if you're building something technological, you need to have someone in the team that's taking care of tech. And believe me, there are some people that approaches us with pitches or with plans of building something. And okay, but who's going to do the tech? Oh no, my cousin, he will help us. And no, it's not like this. You need to have someone really wanting to do that, aligned in incentives, meaning in the founding team, that is taking care of the tech part, because this is the core of the company. So this kind of like job functions slash on the distribution on the team, for me, it's very, very important.
How do you feel about outsourced tech when people say, "Oh, I've got a startup studio building the tech for me," and it's not a co-founder; it's obviously a good company, but
Yeah,
it's not
it can
the tech.
happen too. I think it can happen if you're talking about commodity technology. Like, okay, I'm
Mm,
hiring someone else to build me an app that will run this and this. And okay, when we have some bugs, I'll have to call them and they'll solve it. Okay. But if it's something that you are developing, that it's the core of the company, it's a point of differentiation. It's something that I really think you need to have some core inside the company, because it's tricky for you later if you have everything outsourced. It's your strategic, it's your value proposition, it's a
mm.
strategic value that is in someone else company. It's really hard, I think. But of course, I don't think you need to have everyone on your developing team to build all parts of technology. There are many things that you can hire a third party to do, or have a partner to develop for you. It's not a big deal.
And what are you seeing, and how do you feel about AI in the early stage of startups at the moment? Like,
Well, you mean the impact on their operation, you mean?
well, it's like there's a couple of different viewpoints, because one of the things I noticed with a lot of the founders coming through Canopy at the moment is, of course, they can do so much with AI themselves, so they don't need many other people, and that includes like building the MVPs and stuff. A non-technical founder can actually build
Yeah.
quite a competent MVP now straight out of the block. They go to Replete, or they go to another agentic tool or something, and they just pull this stuff together, and it's amazing, right? They don't need any coding skills or any coding experience really to do it.
Yeah.
But what are you seeing, and how do you feel about that stuff when it comes through?
Yeah, I think I think that this impact is being felt in all of us. Like even in Core Angels, we have been able to do a lot with less people because of using AI. And I think
Mm,
that for startups, I see more and more people saying, "Oh, I just had an idea, and then I built an AI agent to do that in the sales perspective, and then the other person will do that in code, and another agent for coding." And so people are building, entire teams with AI. Okay, I think this is interesting. This is a way that I don't think there will be a return. But in the end, we'll still need people, we still need people to think of how to orchestrate everything,
You
and to
think we
people
will?
to
You don't
orc
think that thinking can be done by somebody like an AI as well,
I
right?
think that right now we still need people to ask the questions, to understand what are the questions. In the future it might change, okay, but I think that right now we still need to think, to have people to ask the right questions and reveal the answers also. There are
Mm,
some activities that we are not yet, well, the way that we have been using AI until now, there are many things that we just can get what comes from them and just use it. But other things are not there yet. Other things we still have to do some review or to connect the dots with other tools, with other things that we are doing. So, but I think it's a movement. Right now, it's like when internet started, okay, when we had Google, that was not Google, it was Alta Vista, it was other sites, Yahoo. We were looking for the first things that we had on internet was CD Now, that was selling CDs,
mm,
and then you were doing basic stuff, you were searching for some things, and then it was evolving. I think with AI will be the same. Right now we are using the chats for um, I saw an article last week saying that people are using the chat GPT or other AIs mostly to produce content and to discuss emotional matters, to have some sentimental advice,
mm.
which is really uh, interesting slash weird, but scary somehow. But people are using for it. So I think we're still too much in the content producing. Of course, not everybody will use it in the same level. We'll always have the top users or people who use it in a more strategic way. But I really think that if the internet made creating companies much easier with the AI right now, the generative AI, it's way easier because you don't need to hire people anymore. You need to hire much less people. And this makes a lot of difference, especially for introvert leaders, especially for people that don't want to be managing a lot of people.
Well, and
They
people like me, I'm an only child. I don't play well with others. I like the idea of a good chatbot here and
Yeah,
there, right? It's great.
yeah, exactly.
But two
What do
really
you think, still, about this? Do you think it's nothing that we can do? Do you think it's
well. I think there's some great stuff coming out, but I got a couple of weird reflections. One of the things I really like is using things like Google Notebook, and then if you interview a load of potential customers in your innovator group and you stick all those transcripts into Google Notebook and you basically ask it, what should I be building for these people? I mean, that's amazing, right? That's taking all this extra thought power, bringing you down to a very small list very quickly, and that's something that we
yeah.
used to be very artisanal about. Now we can be very thorough about it. A friend of mine, or a mentee of mine, sorry, she uh, did something the other day which really amazed me, and she sort of explained it to me, and I'm quite in awe actually. She used ChatGPT to do a job interview, to prepare for a job interview and to train herself. But what was interesting about it is she thinks in Tamil because she's originally from India, and her brain is wired to think in Tamil. And Tamil has like 270 something letters in its alphabet, and each one has a sound, and you just put the letters together and you make the sounds of the letters, and that's how you make words, right? But she thinks in Tamil, so she got it to do
Oh,
the interview for her, the mock interview in Tamil, and then turn it into English because her interview was
okay.
going to actually be in English. So she was able to really elevate her ability to talk in a foreign language. She's
Yeah.
been in the UK for a long time, but she thinks deeper in Tamil than she does in English, and she was
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
elevate herself, and she ultimately got the job as well. And the questions that came out through the mock interview, I think 2 or 3 of them were actually in the real interview, so she was really thoroughly prepared. And when she didn't know the answer to a question, she would then ask ChatGPT to say, "Well, what should I say when I get
Hi.
that question?"
Yeah.
And she was getting like the model answer. So I thought that's really cool. The other thing that floored me a couple of months ago was we have a thing for Canopy, which is on a YouTube channel because none of us are YouTube like experts, and it's called vidIQ, and it's like a little AI that reviews our channel and channels like ours and suggests what sort of content we should produce. And Canopy team, we're not that stupid. We've done a few things. We know roughly what's going on, and we just said to it, "What should we be doing for YouTube episodes for Canopy to get
Mhm.
more people coming through. And they gave us a list of stuff, but it
Oh
didn't just give
yeah.
us a list of titles.
Mm.
It said how long it should be, what we should cover, and basically gave us half a script for each thing. And all of us kind of looked at this in a meeting and went, well, yeah, that's pretty good, and that's kind of right. And now really all we have to do is go and do it. It's not a question of the thinking now, it's just the question of the doing. If vidIQ had arms and legs, it probably would do it, as
Yeah.
well. And one of the startups in Canopy is a deep fake video avatar. Sorry to always say it badly, but so we could have pushed that stuff into that stuff, and then we could have just done the vids straight out the block, and we could have trained it on us, and it would have just looked like us doing it, and then we could have flipped
Yeah.
it to Portuguese, and it would have been fluent, all sorts of stuff. So I almost feel like it's reaching the point where even the experts in us are finding we're quite eroded by what's available, what's already captured, what's
Yeah.
building top. So we'll see where it goes.
I see. Yeah, but I also like to use it like to ask questions. For me, so like challenging me, or I thought about this. Now, please act like as a consultant, an expert in this topic, and please talk to me. So it's very very interesting. But this usage to talk about feelings and this part, I was a little scared because it looks like we are going to social media just to show off and to share all the Instagrammer part of our life, and then we are going to ChatGPT to discuss our dramas and our broken hearts and what to do with our miserable life. So
We're really
it
training
looks
it, right?
like it looks like some disconnection. The same person that is talking to ChatGPT about how miserable they are feeling right now, it's in the same time on Instagram posting amazing sunset, watching by a fancy restaurant in a paradise trip. So kind of this topic, I guess. But yeah, let's see the next chapters.
I think what it's really doing for a lot of us is it's showing how important, how premium, if you like, authenticity is. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that we can do, but actually
Yeah.
the truly authentic, the truly connecting stuff is now this top-notch
Yeah,
premium
this
thing
is
that
the
nobody
challenge.
else is
Yeah,
doing. Yeah.
exactly.
And there's a lot of very samey, similar stuff.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can produce a course for helping people in Canopy with knowledge using a video avatar, and I can produce it in an afternoon for like $30 rather than building getting a set or going to Etique and hiring some
Exactly.
production equipment and stuff and spending thousands and then finding nobody really downloads it or only 5 people get value from it. It's like, well, I can do this
Absolutely.
100 times an experiment. It's
Yeah.
amazing. But, all right. I'll close off on that one. Let's go somewhere else. Right? So tell me, which do you think is the best ecosystem in the world for startups, and why do you think
Wow.
it's the
The
best?
best where we are. I think that, of course, no, but really, I think that Lisbon has been amazing, and I'm here for a reason, and this is very, very interesting. I think uh, that, and why that? Because I really like the mix of people and coming from different backgrounds, different countries, and I think it's so rich. It's such a value, for any ecosystem. I like very much the cosmopolitan ecosystems, because people, they bring different views and perspectives from what they have lived. Uh, I like also, we've been studying for a while in Core Angels the second or third cities of each country.
Mhm.
And I like this very much because usually you have the crowded cities, and then the second and third, they are not so much in the hype. So some startups, they are not going to be so overvalued because they are in the main cities. But in the other hand, also you will not have so much capital available from investors. But right now you can be here and investing there. So it's just an issue of putting together good startups and good investors. You can get capital from other places, from the first city to invest in the second or the third city. So I like very much this kind of cities as well. I think Portugal has been trying to do something around taking all the attention from Lisbon, but it is still a little shy. I would like to say more like we have in Spain, that you are seeing hubs being created, and really not just Barcelona, not just Madrid, but also other cities being flourishing.
Mm. So, I mean, what I really like about the charter we've been given in London is to use this is the phraseology is quite British, but to use entrepreneurship as a tool for social mobility, and maybe that really aligns with what you're saying in
Exactly.
secondary tertiary cities. What you're doing is creating jobs and creating futures, and you're
Hmm.
doing it in your way. So maybe there's not big employers in those areas, maybe there's not big industries, or maybe there was and now there isn't, and actually
And
create your own stuff from that.
exactly, and I think still this is the fastest way, maybe, because if you are depend, well, in the past you used to be dependent of a big company that would be the employer of that city to develop that city, and then the city would be dependent on that employer. So we have this all over the world. Many cities there are just there to be the people living there. They are employed by the same company, etc. So this was the old way of developing certain ecosystems. But with entrepreneurship, they can be so fast. It can be so quick, to bring people, to integrate immigrants into the economy, to make them create impact. So I think this is the fastest way, I guess, and maybe not only the fastest, but maybe the long term, with more long term impact. Because if you're providing good environment for an entrepreneur, this person will create this company today. It might work or not, but if there is a good environment, if they have support, they will
You
feel
can keep
encouraged
going.
to create another one,
Yeah.
or their employees will create other ones. So if people feel confidence in the ecosystem, they will not stop creating things. Even if they exited and made a lot of money, they will invest or they will create other stuff. So
The,
that's how I
the,
think.
the stat I read was that statistically, the most successful entrepreneurs are on their fourth or fifth startup and usually in their early 40s. So, you've made all your experience and mistakes and you've gathered your wisdom in your
Exactly.
20s and maybe some of your 30s, and suddenly you're, doing something big. But I think also in this world of, because we talked about AI for a while here, lots of disruptions happening already, lots of disruptions coming. What I like about entrepreneurship is it's in your hands. And so maybe this is the thing people have to pick up a lot over the next, let's say, 5 years as more disruption comes, because
Yeah.
the systems will be doing one thing and you need to take something into your own hands, and maybe it's this.
Yes, that's right too. And I think also, but that's not for everyone. And this is tricky, because in the other side we have an educational system that is still teaching people how to be good employees and how to follow the rules, and how, and not to disrupt. But this is a long conversation. But this is a challenge for everyone who's a parent right now.
It's interesting. I think that education is being funded and being driven to be more vocational. And I really like what's called experiential learning, where you learn by doing. And I learn much better that way than I do by regurgitating things out of books, right? That doesn't work for me. I know some people that works really well. And I know
Yeah.
vocational isn't for everybody. And I know experiential learning isn't for everybody. We're all on a spectrum of
Hmm.
needs and stuff. But I think the more tangible skills are being valued. And also, when you look at a nation level, places like the UK and the US, they're investing into plumbing and to carpentry and to building and to things which actually are very tactile, very vocational type experiences. And the biggest growth area in education in the UK is actually apprenticeships. So you can even do apprenticeship
Oh,
degrees
really?
now, you can do apprenticeship master's degrees. There's all sorts of things you can do through an apprenticeship
Wow.
model. And that means that you work and study to this level, like level 7, you can go all the way through to level 7 stuff, but working at the same time, and you don't have debts. You don't have all this burden that you would have if you did a traditional, I'm going to take 3 or 4 years out in education type thing before I've ever earned any money. And you can even do an apprenticeship MBA. So
Wow.
yes,
That's so
your
interesting.
employer is paying for it, paying you. You've got a salary, but you're getting your release, going there and learning that level. You're getting academic supervision, and you're building up to that kind of level.
And this is so good for people that they just don't want to do the other pathway, because in a way people are they are forced to go to the traditional way because there is no other. And once you have this kind of opportunities, there are some people that just feel that's what I want to do. I want to go to apprentice pathway and then just be mastering on this, but not like developing leadership skills to manage, I don't know how many people, but. This is great.
I
This is
think
very
it's
good.
huge. And the thing I think that's really forced this has actually been the pace of change, because I think people are starting to want more bite size and easy to move forward with education, and they're
Hmm.
wanting it to align specifically with a job or a career directly, rather than saying, "Oh, by the time I've studied my degree, in effect, my knowledge is out of date, because I haven't applied anything. I'm not in the real world. I'm in this ivory tower." But actually, that course was put together 5 years ago and
Yeah.
is certified and approved. And I'm actually learning today something from maybe 6 years ago when it was first put together. And actually, AI has meant that we've moved on so far that that's so irrelevant that I can't get a job because they're all doing something different. So I've got to peg these things together much more closely, and I've got to take more bite-sized chunks of knowledge on board very
Yeah,
quickly.
exactly. Yeah,
Who knows where
agree.
universities will be in 5 years? Let's
I
see.
don't
Let's see.
know. I really don't, because I think it's becoming just a side source. I don't think it's still the main for certain professions and certain age. But I think that people are realizing that they will have to learn forever, period, in a way. And maybe university was still, I think it is still there because we somehow need some stamp, some, um, but I don't know in the future, really. For the next generations, it's so easy to access content and to articulate. And I've been seeing also many different types of experimental schools trying something alternative methods, try to avoid this typical academic way. But let's see.
Montessori schools is a really good one of those in Kashkash. And Montessori Steiner schools, these kind of experiential learning places, it feels like play. You've got this sense of flow. It's kind of interesting compared
Yeah.
to, you've got this book, you must read these lines, you must tell me what's on line 3. That's a whole different education experience.
Exactly, totally different. It give you too much. I think much more protagonism to the person. Like I can identify also what I should study right now, what is my need, or what do I want to do, and take care of my career and my life. And this is something that in the traditional methods we are always waiting for someone who is more enlightened than us, who owns the knowledge to tell us what to do or which pathway to go through. That's very interesting.
Fantastic. Well, I'm gonna just add in a little reflection from our future work edition that we did a couple of years ago. And then, if you want, you're welcome to ask me a question before we close out on the whole
Yeah.
best advice for a first-time founder. But we've done this future of work and education webinar a few times over the years, and it's a couple of years ago that we did the last one. We're overdue doing it again, but what we had was 3 educationalists and 1 technologist on the last one, and we were saying, what is the future of education and how does it fit with work? And at the end, what I do is I tell the panel, I'm going to anoint you to be the godparents of my daughter. And I think she was 8 at the time, so it's probably 4 years ago that we did this. And we said to them, you're now the godparents of Sophia. At the end of this about future of education and work, tell her what she should be studying so that she's ready for the future of work when she's 18. And of course, each educationist had their view. And then the technologist, I was expecting him to say, it's all about science, it's all about maths, it's all about coding. Bearing in mind, this was 4 years ago and it's pre-ChatGPT. He said, look, here's enterprise architecture. I work in enterprise environments. This little circle here, this is the only thing I can't automate yet. I call it the last bastion of humanity. Everything else I'm already automating right now. And I'm working on this little circle over here. So what I say to your daughter is, I think you should learn about empathy. I think you should learn how to talk to people. I think you should learn how to play music and extend the human experience, because for maths and computing, I don't need you. I got it all done. It's over here. It's in a file system right now. And we all just kind of sat there and went, oh my God, like what's just happened? This is not what we're expecting from you. But everything that Dave talked about on that webinar has since come true. And it's really interesting how that sort of trajectory is going. So maybe
Amazing.
it is all about the human experience. Maybe that's the investment we got to make. How do you make
It's
human
becoming more human, yes, and developing more your human capacity. What makes a difference between you and the machine? Because as you said, in the beginning of my career, I was great with Excel spreadsheets. Now, what is it
not
worth?
so much?
What is the value on this? I used to work for a consulting company, and the thing was doing amazing Excel models and building amazing presentations in PowerPoint. now what's the point?
Yeah.
There's no value in this anymore. So
You got a napkin or something like that. It's done in seconds, right?
but yeah, so what are the good students coming from universities going to do? What will be their entry level work? This is something that I think about, because if the entry level in the past used to do all this very hard working, and now the machines will be doing, how these guys are going to get
How
experience in
do
the
they
beginning
elevate?
years?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I believe, and this is something we really do here at home with my kids. I have two teenagers, and I really think that developing empathy, as you said, and like social skills, social intelligence, being able to connect with people and really listen to them. It's not just listen to react, or not just listen to nod, but really listen and pay attention and try to understand why this person is sending that message. What is the experience behind this? Because this will connect you with that person, and this will make collaboration possible. Otherwise, we're just in our own words and worlds, and defending each other, and not connecting and not collaborating. So I think that the human-centric capabilities are very, very important. It's I think the challenge for this is that we are becoming more and more isolated. So this is tricky, especially for the children, the teenagers. But like motivating them to be with people, to develop the social skills, emotional intelligence, and this sort of thing. Because being good at spreadsheets, not so important anymore, I guess.
Interesting. Well, before we close out, is there any question you want to ask me?
Yes, I
Anna,
want.
you want to ask me something? Okay, I'm not prepared for this, but let's go for it. Come on, Cynthia, what have you got? What have you got?
No, I want to ask for you. I want to ask you still, because I know that you've been in contact with so many founders, investors as well. And I think we still have a very big gap of information. I think they are all built differently, like founders and investors. Usually, they are two worlds. They have gone through different pathways. They have different mindsets. I think there's still a big gap between them. And when we wrote the book that you mentioned, the name is Angel Investing Explained. When we wrote the book, we were thought of writing this to aspiring angels, but many founders decided to buy it because they said, I want
Good.
to understand how these people think. I want to
Good.
understand what's on their mind. And I still think there is this big gap between both worlds. Okay. Do you see the same in your experience, in your contact with all these people? Or do you think there is some common ground that maybe should be a hint for a bridge, some way of connection between them and reducing this big gap of information and mindset?
Fabulous question. And it's really interesting that I think what we were discussing about education is very relatable to the thing to do with investment. So just like we were talking about with degree courses, you're studying it today, but it was probably put together 6 years ago. If you think about a VC fund, it's very similar. Most funds have a 10-year lifespan. The thesis was back then. Today is very different. And I think what we're going to see, one of the reasons there's this big empathy gap is because one group is working on a 6 year ago thesis in amongst a company of people who are also working on those theses from back there. And the world is moving so fast that the newer funds and the more micro investment stuff can keep up. But actually, the whole VC structure, I don't think, is appropriate to today. So, even how long does it take you to raise a fund, right? If it's going to take you 9 months, a year and a half to get your LPs in place, well, I can tell you 18 months ago, my world was really different. I can tell you 18 months before that, my world. 4 years ago, we were, Dave was telling us about the stuff which is really happening already, but it was already happening for him. So you can't tell me that a VC structure that works in that way is going to keep up. And I think the people that are in investment, like I'm in startups, right? I'm 52 and I'm pretty current, but I'm amazed every day with what I'm seeing and making decisions differently this year than how I was making them last year. I think quite a few of the people that I meet in investment have stuck a little bit
I see.
in their learning profile. And I think that will change too. And I think also, like we just talked about, how do you invest in that human experience versus that technology experience. Yes, there's still deep tech, there's still a whole piece of investment that's needed in very specific technology, but there's this big wide part of the market that is going to move from tech, because it's irrelevant now, it's the enabler, but it's not difficult, and it's going to be about experience, and it's going to be about connection. And that's a really different thesis to what a lot of funds have been
Yeah.
predicated on. So yeah, I think that's where the gaps are, and I think that's why the gaps look quite big and clunky at times. And there's another thing as well, which I think there's a lot of disenfranchised communities that maybe haven't been involved in entrepreneurship that much, and therefore solutions haven't really been tailored for them. So let's take a really small example. Men and women, they're different bodies, right? But medicine didn't really test on women independently until the 90s. Now there's a lot of different medicine strands that are very bespoke to women of different ages as well as men of different ages, right? Think about founders of color, founders from secondary and tertiary cities, founders from low socioeconomic status. They're all serving themselves and problems that they have, and they're serving communities that are like them, because that's how you do entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
But their needs and their communities and their way of growing and their way of connecting is completely different to where a lot of the investors come from. And I think there's a really big gap there that I see very clunky on a day-to-day basis. And there's more founders coming through those emerging pathways, if you like, learning for the first time without peer groups that have been successful already, and there's a big amount of demography that's just been left behind in this stuff. And people have said, hey, I know the answer for you, and I've kind of brought it to you, but they haven't been of that demography. They haven't really understood it when they've been doing it. It's like a 20-year-old founder from Bhopal telling me, a 52-year-old white guy sitting here in Exeter, that he knows what I'm thinking. Well, he might have a good guess, but he probably doesn't really know. Yeah. And likewise, I can't do a solution for him or her either, right? Absolutely. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that, and I hope we do, because particularly if you're a city like, let's say, Boston, one of my favorite places, you're never going to be competitive in the startup world if you don't embrace all the demography of your city. And the startup ecosystem has to be for all of those people. And the investment part of that ecosystem has to be for all of those people from all of those communities for it to really excel and thrive. So I don't know if I actually answered your question, Cindy, because it's such a good one. It made me think real hard, right?
No, but you brought me many other questions, I'll have to think a lot now, which is amazing. Great. Thank you.
Maybe we'll continue this over coffee when I see you next.
Yes.
So let's close out then. What is Cynthia's best advice for a first-time founder watching this? They're looking to raise money. What do you say to them?
Okay, I would say first, are you really looking to raise money? This is the first question, and why I'm telling you this, because and how, because I think we have all this. I think that we've been trying to inspire the young generations to build ideas, projects, companies, etc., which is, I think, is great. We should do that. I truly believe in entrepreneurship as a potential as a movement for impacting society. But I also think that we have this storytelling that is always the same. That is, I have a great idea, I put a pitch deck together, and I look for a VC fund, and then I will raise 5 million euros, and just like that, and so we have this fairy tale, and many times they are not asking themselves basic questions like, okay, I need funding to my company. Of course, I think that all business, they need to be funded. You have to worry about this. You have to plan this. It doesn't mean that you need to get investment. It doesn't mean that investment will come from a VC fund. It can come from an angel. It can come from grants. It can come from crowdsourcing. It can come from, in the beginning, from some savings from the founders, and then they will do other types of funding. So I think that the first step is to really understand which game you want to play, because they are different games. So if you are willing to fundraise from a VC fund, from a group of angels, from an individual angel, they have different implications. Your life will be different depending, your life and your business, they will be different depending on which game you want to play. So this awareness about what is funding, what are these people doing, what are their roles, what kind of benefit your company can get from different kinds of sources of funding, This is extremely important, and I don't see many founders having this quite questioning themselves on this. And sometimes when they see they are in their Series A and they are playing a game that maybe it's not what they wanted, or they are living a life that maybe it's not what they wanted, or yes, their company has grown, but they are facing other challenges right now, and maybe they have an exit, but they don't get all the money they thought they would get. So I really think that you should understand what kind of game is there for playing, and choose the game you want to play, and something that relates to yourself, because it can be very stressful. We see many founders suffering with mental health, and having all kinds of consequences of playing games that they didn't want to. And second thing is, okay, you decided that you want to get funded, and one fund after the other, and exponential growth and scale up, etc. Okay, good. There are many different kinds of investors. If you are fundraising, don't fundraise a lot of money. Fundraise the money that you need. Okay. Oh yeah, but there is someone that wants to put more X money on the table. Yeah, but the earlier you're fundraising, the more expensive is this fundraising for you. You have to give away a lot of your company. You will be putting a lot of investors on your cap table. This is hard to manage. This will become harder and harder to manage with time. So be very conscious about selecting your investor. Don't believe that, well, you are the only one selected. You also need to select your investors, if they are angels or funds or whatever. So this is very precious about your company. Who is going to be partnering with you to fund and to support your company?
Really nice. I like that. Thank you for framing it like that. Very interesting. Know the game you're playing and pick your investor as much as they pick you. Very cool.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for doing this today and for sharing the benefit of your experience and your wisdom. Really appreciate it. And thank you for all the things you do in the community as well. It's really special. I've watched you in demo nights and other events. I've watched you counsel people and help people and support people, even ones you're not going to invest in. And it's really a kindness you give. It's quite what I call being a citizen.
Yeah.
Within the environment. So thank you so much for all of that.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you for your words and for making it happen. Also for everything you do for the ecosystem. It's really amazing. And sometimes we just do these things, but because we have other people like you doing also. So it's really a boost of energy, and helps a lot. Thank you.
Happy days. Happy Friday.